What's next for transportation energy? On today's episode, a look at how TEI's Carbon Council provides perspective on carbon mitigation strategies for the transportation sector, with TEI's Executive Director, John Eichberger.
A lot of the work that the Transportation Energy Institute has done over the last 5 years has really been focused on addressing the global priority of reducing carbon emissions from the transportation sector. And even though it's 2025, there's a little bit of relaxation in that urgency in a lot of leadership scenarios, it doesn't change the fact that reducing emissions makes a lot of sense and is still a central part to a lot of policies throughout the world and priorities for a lot of companies. So, we really looked at what have we done in this space and who is part of the Institute that can have a real meaningful input on carbon-related discussions. We thought, it's really important to get those people together, to pull together a council of experts within the TEI network who can really bring some valuable guidance as to where things are in the carbon world, from carbon accounting, carbon valuation, carbon mitigation, models, and all that stuff to help us better understand the scope of the market for carbon and help guide TEI's efforts when we start looking at different projects that have a carbon element to it. So there's a lot of areas where we can explore, but really, I think the time was right. I think the breadth of our membership is diverse and with enough expertise on carbon that kind of sets us apart from other organizations because of the wide variety of stakeholders we have at the table. And bringing this Carbon Council together just gives us a much more organized way to have these conversations about one of the critical focuses of the transportation sector. I think one of the things that's important is there's a lot of organizations out there that focus on carbon. A lot of our members are members of those other groups. And when you look at those groups, great, there's plenty of room in the market for multiple organizations focused on carbon. At TEI, we don't really look at ourselves as a competitive entity. We're not out there saying, well, we're better than them and they're not as good as us and we need to take their... We're not in that position at all. I mean, there's room for all of us to contribute to the discussion. We don't advocate. And so I think that kind of sets us apart from a lot of the other groups because we don't have a stake in what policymakers decide. We don't have a stake in how a carbon market develops. We want to bring as much clarity, perspective, and honest analysis to the table to help the real experts and decision makers find solutions that make sense. And if that solutions come from another organization that views themselves as a competitive, fine, we'll support that. But I do believe that our non-advocacy position, our diversity of stakeholders sets us apart. It gives us an opportunity to bring a different view, a different perspective to the discussions that may be had by organizations that are really trying to push an agenda. The other distinguishing characteristic is carbon is a huge market. It's a huge issue. In the United States, around 30% of carbon GHG emissions come from the transportation sector. We are exclusively focused on transportation. So it gives us a focal point, which hopefully will allow us to deliver to the market very targeted, very objective, very pragmatic ideas that can help reduce emissions in a way that is economically sustainable or economically advantageous. And, if companies can make money and reduce emissions, they will do that. But we have to be looking at it from that perspective. We can't be looking at it from an altruistic perspective because altruistic solutions tend to fail, because who's going to pay for them? Nobody wants to pay for them. So we need to make sure, and one of the things the Carbon Council is going to help TEI do is provide that transportation-focused, objective, pragmatic market perspective on how we most effectively reduce emissions from the sector. The TEI Carbon Council is open to all TEI members and all members of the Electric Vehicle Council at TEI So it really is an opportunity to bring a lot of people to the table, and we encourage people that want to be part of this conversation, reach out, let us know, and we'll figure out a way to get you to the table. So we want to have a broad base of stakeholders helping guide our discussions, and that's what the council is all about.
What's Next for Transportation Energy is a production of the Transportation Energy Institute, transportationenergy.org.